you sit most hours of the day? Do you feel discomfort or pain in your upper or lower back? What happens to your body when you slump in your chair? Prolonged sitting in this position will in time cause rigidity and tightness in the tight muscles. Here we can see them colored in yellow. And these are chronically short muscles, what we call locked short. In addition to the posterior leg muscles, the hip flexors are also chronically short from prolonged sitting. Rigidity in the hip flexors is a direct cause of weakness in the antagonist hip extenders. What happens to the lumbar spine? Well, here we can see a neutral spine and lumbar flexation. In prolonged slump posture, the lumbar spine is flexed. Over time, damage includes increase in posterior annulus strain, damage to the annulus of the disc, and increase in intradiscal pressure. So, what happens to the connective tissues? Well, flexed posture places stress on the posterior passive tissues. In addition, the posterior ligaments are also impaired. So, what happens to the thoracic spine? Well, the thoracic spine is extensively convex, with the shoulder and head tilted forward. The pectoralis minor is held chronically short, locked short. Now let's talk abdominal wall weakness. The abdominal wall muscles and fascia are locked short over time. The abdominal girdle elasticity is impaired, and in the cervical muscles, the sternocleidomastoid is locked short, as is the upper trapezius. Here we see what happens to the neck muscle in forward head posture. We can see that all the muscles are locked short. See how their shortness pulls the head forward, or how the forward head posture shortens them. In a neutral spine sitting position, the spinal erector muscles stabilize the spine. In slumped sitting, all of the load is moved from the muscles to the posterior passive tissues. The body rests on the tissues, creating an imbalance. The middle trapezius holds the whole shoulder girdle, eccentrically loaded tight. Lack of rest for the muscle and tissue surrounding it will in time cause local tenderness, tightness, and pain. This animation illustrates the effect of tightness on posture. In a kyphotic position, the frontline tissue is locked short instead of being in a neutral position. This results in a shortening of the superficial front line. In addition to the superficial front line being in a slumped posture, we can also see shortening of the spinal line. The oblique abdominals are locked short, and a chain reaction pulls them forward. The serratus anterior, which connects to the rhomboid tissues, and these connect to the cervical extensors. In this position, the entire spiral line is pulled downward. And here we can see the effect of flexation of the thoracic vertebrae, rounded shoulders, and forward head position. This animation illustrates only the myofascial that envelops the muscle. These three principles are: 1. Divide loads among the tissues. Varying sitting patterns is an important principle. 2. Maintain neutral spinal curves and avoid flex posture over time. 3. Include breaks for movement. Principle 1. Divide loads among the tissues. Varying sitting patterns is an important principle. There's no one ideal posture that should be maintained all day long in order to prevent focused load. It's not good to sit in any static position for hours on end, and it's important to change the type of sitting every half hour or every so often. Take standing positions during the workday, and be sure to include 1 or 2 hours of standing. Principle 2. Maintain neutral spinal curves and avoid prolonged flex posture. When sitting with the backrest, Place a pillow between the lower back and the chair so that you can maintain the spinal curves in a neutral position. This is also known as maintained lumbar lordosis. This includes sitting without a backrest. You can also use a regular chair and simply sit on its front edge, sitting without a backrest while maintaining the spinal curve. It is an exercise all on its own and requires accurate posture alignment in general, as well as activation of the deep erector spinal muscles over time. Therefore, this ability has to be built up gradually, just like any other exercise. So, in the following way. Week 1, the minute per hour exercise. At least 1 minute during every hour of work, be sure to sit with an elongated back. Week 2, increase the time you hold the position up to 2 minutes every hour. Week 3, 3 minutes every hour while sitting. You see where this is going. Stretch your head upward like a puppet on a string. Thus, gradually add minutes of each exercise until you can maintain and spend most of the time in an optimal postural position without any effort or thought. Make sure that the height of the chair is adjusted so that your knees can be lower than your pelvic height, and in this way, you can maintain neutral spinal curves. Principle 3. Include breaks for movement. Is it worth taking short breaks to walk from your seat to another place every hour or two? Yes. Take a break for easy stretches and mobility exercises for the spine, neck, and shoulder girdle. Stretch the front line by outward lengthening. Raise your arms over your head, look up, and extend the hands. Every hour, stretch your back to concave and convex positions. This exercise can be done while sitting at work. In summary, 1. Divide loads among the tissues. 2. Maintain neutral spinal curves and avoid flex posture over time. 3. Take regular breaks for movement.
One of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no.
There's people in here far superior than me. But there's no one in here that's going to work harder than me. We get up at 5:30 in the morning, it's pipping rain outside. Our competition's sleeping. I love that.
I will not be outworked, period.
Where I excel is ridiculous, sickening work ethic. While the other guy's sleeping, I'm working. While the other guy's eating, I'm working.
Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.